Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander. That's Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And the boys are back with the 23-24 NBA season. The good people at TheLines.com saw fit to bring us back here for the season. So we're kicking things off with a 2-game slate to open up the season with two very good matchups that we'll get into here with the Suns and the Golden State Warriors, as well as the Lakers and the defending champions, the Denver Nuggets. Definitely want to make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. We're going to be bringing you these videos each and every weekday this season. Also head to thelines.com. Check out all the content we're putting up, NBA and otherwise right now, with a full slate of sports every night, it feels like. We also have the odds finder tool up there. You can make sure that you're getting the best lines and all odds available to you from these books, giving us bets this basketball season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into what we've got here for best bets. Do want to make clear we've also got the player props video separate from this that we'll be bringing you guys as well. So a couple videos each day that you want to make sure you check out. But we're going to jump into best bets here, Nate.
Yeah, it's an exciting season for sure. And I think we're both leaning for game theory towards the second game, Suns and Warriors, rather than the Nuggets and Lakers. But we do have plenty of player props on them. Yeah, so tune in for that one. But, I mean, like the public, we're looking at points in this game, and there was kind of a mispriced number here where DK had both teams to score, and it was like even money for them to both score 112, even though both their team totals were like 117. So I was able to hit that earlier today, but now it is adjusted. It's minus 145 for that.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to make the official bet 112.5 for both teams to score at least that. Josh says, he'd play it up to 115 and get some plus money. I don't hate that. I mean, the Suns, after acquiring KD, averaged 116 last year. They average 125 their last four against Golden State, and that's not with a lot of firepower in the lineup some of the time. That's just a random blip, basically. But we are looking at a what could be a historically good offense, right? I mean, it's the preseason, sure, but Devin Booker put up a 146 rating. Durant 144, Beal 132, Nurkic fitting in well with them 133 offensive rating with him on the floor. They had 35 plus points in 6 of their 14 quarters in the preseason. And the Warriors offense will clap back at home. They averaged 120 last season. Averaged plenty on the road too, but that was when they gave up a lot. I think the Dubs made some moves that are going to trade less, that are going to give them more offense, right? I mean, Dario Saric in the rotation, Jonathan Kuminga coming out party, maybe CP3 running some pick and rolls with him in the second unit. CP3 just being on that second unit is going to elevate your efficiency for sure. I don't think he can defend that well at this stage in his career. Draymond being that neutralizing defender, but like, who is he guarding on the Suns team? Like, it's all perimeter players. I do think Wiggins can match up on Durant a little bit, but I mean, Book, Beal, you pick your poison. They should be able to score, and most importantly, the pace should be up because the Warriors played at a 101 pace at home. The Suns are more than happy to run. I mean, they've been playing at a 102 pace the last 4 against the Warriors, and now they have the ability to run more with these guys. So I'm just expecting points. That the total continues to be inflating because of the way people are also expecting points, but I think you can kind of get some extra value by taking both these teams to be in it, rather than taking the over and saying one team's going to get 120, 110. I think it will be close and both teams will be trading blows.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I don't, the only thing that I turn to tell me that maybe there won't be as many points as we all think is Frank Vogel. But even then, I'm like, who is Frank Vogel working with down low? I think he's a smart enough coach to know that although he's typically been have a big guy down low, really protect the rim and outsize the other team. That's been his MO for based on the rosters he's had, especially in Indiana and in Los Angeles when they won the chip. This is a different squad. They got rid of dominating, I say with with air quotes, because I'm not sure 4-foot jumpers jump hooks count as dominating, but he's not even there. So right now we're dealing with a situation where we're clearly just selling out to score more than the other team, which I have no problem with, to be honest with you. We'll see how that works in what we call the 16 game season of the playoffs. But for now, that's going to be just fine with the amount of depth and amount of wings, versatile players that they have to be able to play that way. So I think if you're any intelligent coach, you have to lean into the strengths of your team, regardless of how you might have played in the past. And I think that everything you said is going to trump this. Yeah, I would take it up to 114.5 in this game. And to be honest, I'll just segue into the over in this game, which will be my first pick. I have another one as well that I'll make here second, though. But because it sort of plays so well off of what you were saying, I think it just makes sense to go over the 234.5. You've definitely lost some value. I think it was about 231.5 at points in time in the last. I'm talking about like over the summer as well, when these lines even opened for sickos that have been looking at it for months, just waiting for the NBA like ourselves. 234.5 though is still great. I think you look at the way that the Dubs played last season, not only with this situation, first 3 games of the year where they played super fast. Also, Wiggins being in tow now and actually on the team for the majority of the season, as opposed to last year where he missed more than half of the regular season games. They play faster with him for a good reason. He's the most versatile defender and capable defense to offense type of player that they have. Take a defensive rebound, push it all the way down the court. He's the biggest player with the most athleticism left to do that. Draymond's not the same guy that used to do those things. So there's a reason they played at a 102 pace with Wiggs and just a 99 pace without him. Look at who was in the game more when he's not there. You need Looney in there more often without Wiggs for rebounding against power forwards. And that's not going to be as big of a problem anymore. So he's going to be in there and able to keep the pace moving. The first 3 games for the Dubs last season, they allowed 120 points per game. That includes the season opener where they whooped up on the Lakers and won 123-108. And they still gave up 120 points per game because in the next 2 versus Denver, they gave up 128 and 125 versus Sac. And all those games are at home, by the way, so I know we talk about them being better on defense at home, but they played at 110 pace in those first 3 games, which is kind of apropos of an early season game where everyone's just sort of going up and down the court, a little bit of going through the motions on defense, not sure anybody's slapping the floor and really getting into the defensive stance quite as vigorously coming back from Cabo not that long ago. So I do think there's something to the idea that these early games go longer. Shooting is shooting. If you're open in the NBA, you can come off a boat and start shooting. It doesn't matter. And I think that'll continue here with the Suns being a team that I think we're going to continue to see sell out in that direction and just keep getting the points and the pace up, which, by the way, they played with a pretty fast pace, about 98, 99 pace when KD was in there in the playoffs and a little bit before that. So.
Yeah, I mean, and these are some of the most natural shooters you will find in terms of not worrying about the rust here with KD or Curry or Booker. Yeah, the Warriors game log, not only in how they started last season, but in how they've opened seasons for the last 7 years now. They've actually dropped 4 of these openers, 3 of them at home, and gave up 129, 122, and 141 in those losses. So it's a little bit of a lapse. Sometimes those were ring nights. Right now we're not in that situation, but it is the Warriors, feeling themselves and coming out and having fun and not necessarily playing that much defense. I think they will be up for this challenge because of the Suns' big 3 and all the fanfare that comes with it, and say we got to try to stop them. But I don't think you can. I don't think anybody will really be able to match up with them and hold them consistently below that number. Well, let's look at some players here with the same game parlay, and you got to stay kind of conservative with these. I mean, maybe that's the NFL better in me talking because constantly getting hooked into of course Christian McCaffrey's going to score a touchdown. But I'm going to go conservative-ish here. Steph, 25 points. Book, 25 points. And KD, 20 points and 6 rebounds. Not even 25 for KD because in his career, in recent meetings, Wiggins has done a pretty good job of holding him down. But I think, of course, Kevin Durant, his prop, 26.5 points. He's probably going over that. Probably going to have a lot to prove. This is his first real appearance against Golden State since leaving there. He has a couple with the Nets that were just utter blowouts because Harden and Kyrie were balling and it just wasn't necessary. But I think KD very much coming into the season motivated. Played really well with the Suns, of course, in the postseason, averaged 29 points per game and nearly 9 rebounds per game. So that's why you feel pretty safe about that. He has to play more power forward, has to board up in a game that's going to be fast-paced. Golden State allowed over 10.5 rebounds to power forwards last season. And I mean, if you're worried about these other two guys scoring, I don't know. I mean, Steph averages 29 a game his last 6 against Phoenix. And I think there's a bit of a factor that Chris Paul, even when he wasn't guarding him, Chris Paul being the kind of basketball mastermind he is, that when he was able to hold Steph down, the Suns were, I think it's a lot of CP3 in there, in the game planning, essentially. And now CP3 is going to be feeding him the ball sometimes, helping him get open with that basketball mind, etc. And then Book, who, you like for MVP at this point, maybe the most unstoppable offensive player in the conversation, at least. And he's averaged nearly 30 against Golden State, despite only shooting 30% from deep in his last 4 against them. I think he should have no problem getting this. Him and Klay Thompson have some beef, I think, from last season. So I expect him to go right at Klay if that's the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it might have to be the matchup. There's definitely there's a scarcity of defenders that can guard, and this is going to happen a lot. But once you put your 2 best defenders on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, you got Bradley Beal left to deal with. Hopefully you have a defender of the similar ilk to guard him. But either way, like if Wiggs is on KD, that does leave Klay. The only alternative here is you do see a little bit more Jonathan Kuminga rather than Kevon Looney, so that you can get him in there to help out with those 3 guys. But I'm not really sure that Draymond's a good matchup for any of them anyway. At this point, KD would absolutely cook him, and that's the probably slowest of the 3 people we're talking about here for the Suns. So we'll see. Yeah, it's probably going to have to be Klay to the point that you're making, and I think that's just going to be a pretty solid matchup in favor of Devin Booker in this one. I'm going Suns money line. I am taking a winner in this game, and I mean, first of all, minus 102 is a good enough price for me to take the Suns to win a basketball game. I'm not sure how often you'll see that when you know that all 3 guys are suiting up for them, wherever this game is. Like outside of Denver and I guess maybe Golden State, we'll see how much respect that they get throughout the rest of the regular season. Maybe if LA looks good during the regular season, I still think Suns are probably favored by a couple points on the road against the Lakers. So the fact that I'm getting that minus 102 on FanDuel versus the like minus 112 or minus 115 that you would get for the money line for the Dubs, that's a good price for me in what is essentially a coin flip, but does still seem to have a feel of like Phoenix has a little bit more to play for. KD has a little bit more of a chip rather than anybody else in Golden State having won against KD, right? Like no one really hates KD in Golden State. He won 2 chips. If anything, people are mad that like he's tainted Steph's reputation as one of the best of all time because he got 2 of them with KD. Neither here nor there. I think they've also had, I know that they've had the edge against the Dubs in the last bunch of matchups dating back to last season, even in the one where they just played a bunch of scrubs and Mikal Bridges and still beat the Dubs in that game. And then the Dubs didn't play a couple guys. It was a weird series, but there were still a handful of games, 2 of them specifically, where everybody's playing no KD yet, but everybody's playing for Phoenix, and it's still a favorable matchup for them, especially because of what we were just talking about. There's nobody for Devin Booker, who, to your point, whether he was making threes or not, has gone off to really carry the offense for the Suns, and everybody else just sort of fills in around him. And now the people filling in around him are not Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. It's Brad Beal and Kevin Durant. I think they averaged 100. Once again, I know they averaged 125 points per game versus Golden State last season. I expect that to continue. I understand, like, I don't think Kevon Looney is going to be long for this game if Vogel knows really kind of what's good for him, because Kevon and Draymond will be the best 2 rebounders on the floor if the Suns, regardless, honestly, who the Suns put on the floor at this point. I think you need to run him off the floor, and that's what they'll try to do. I mean, the Dubs, like you said, they had 110 defensive rating at home, which is much better than their awful defensive rating on the road that was up around like 118. It's still, even at that 110 defensive rating, I see this pace up above 100, up around 102. And I think that's going to, in the end, favor Phoenix, who's going to have a couple more guys that can put the ball in the basket at the end of the game over the Dubs, essentially.
I like this take from somebody who knows the Warriors well. It's some big balls to pick against them in a home opener, but I mean, I read you guys the game log. They've not been that good in season openers, and in fact, their last 2 wins have come against the Lakers team that had really clunky roster construction. Right, there was the Russ Westbrook mistake last year. The year before, they started DeAndre Jordan and Kent Bazemore along with AD and LeBron. So it's not necessarily like the one narrative for the Warriors is, okay, Jordan Poole's gone. They got rid of that bad blood now, but like it could be an awkward fit for them getting Chris Paul integrated, right? And it's like, who's running this offense, and like what's the situation? They're really old. The extra rest will help them in that situation, but I think the Suns, you know, the role players especially being called like something Nasir Little and whatever, just being like that. No, there's no depth beyond this big three. I could see a scenario where the Suns get rolling here and show everybody who they're at. I'm willing to buy into regular season success for this team at 52 wins, at being the number 1 seed in the West. I think it's possible, and we'll see what they look like in their opener.
Yeah, it's interesting with the futures. I was talking about Kings value and 10-1 to win the division and all that. Just the more I still think those things are good bets, but like the more that you look at the depth, the more you're like, this is a regular season team, because it's not like if they sit 1 or 2 guys that they're screwed. You still have scoring on the bench. You still have at least something in a backup big in Drew Eubanks, who I think we both agree is a solid backup big in this league. And then, you know, Yuta Watanabe and the rest, obviously Eric Gordon. Yeah, they're deep. Not very deep, you know, in terms of the front court there throughout the rest of it. Chimezie Metu, we'll see how many minutes he gets in this team. They might be relying on him a bit more, but not in this game. This is going to be a game that they should be able to handle without any true offensive bigs for the Warriors here. So that's all the time we have for you, though, in the first best bets video of the season. Continue to follow along, like and subscribe to that page. Check out the play props that we have up for you as we look to get hot early with those once again. Until we see you next, happy betting.